Hey guys, today we have a special guest here, Geoff Magliocchetti. Geoff. So Geoff is a writer. He's a beat reporter for the Jets and the New York Liberty for ESNY, Elite Sports New York. So Geoff, how's it going?
Lauren, it's great to be on the program. Thank you for having me.
So I feel like I should just say how we know each other. So it's kind of a funny story. So
No,
it's an interesting story. So I last summer was my first summer doing Liberty Beat, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just learning on the fly. I don't know what I'm doing, just whatever. And then I started doing some stuff with ESNY for it, midway through the season. And Geoff was like, "Hey, if you need anything, I'm Geoff. Let me know." And I was like, "Thanks, because I don't know what I'm doing." And then Geoff recorded all those videos I did, and if I needed any questions, if I had questions about my questions that I was going to ask, Geoff would help me. So Geoff was the real MVP last season.
you're making me tear. You're making me tear up.
So
here, Lauren,
it was a fun
you.
time, and now we're here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk some NFL, some WNBA, but let's start with the NFL draft first because that's this week. Today's Sunday, I think. Yep. Today's Sunday. So you're a Jets reporter, obviously. You're around the team a lot. Who do you think the Jets are drafting this year? It's from what I've seen, fans either want Jerry Jeudy or an offensive lineman, and it seems very split in the fan base between who the team should go with.
Well, I think right now those wishing for a receiver are going to be very disappointed because Joe Douglas, in his pre-draft remarks, which were a couple weeks ago, he mentioned how important it is to almost "quote unquote" stockpile offensive linemen, and the Jets are a team that has really neglected the offensive line position over the past few years. Like last year, for example, remind me, I'm sure you're familiar with this team, Lauren, the 27 New York Giants. Remember what the Giants did in the offseason when in that 2017 offseason, they were coming off the playoff spot. They lost in Green Bay, but they brought in Brandon Marshall, drafted Evan Ingram, re-signed Jason Pierre-Paul, and also drafted the closest thing at the time there was to an Eli Manning successor in, I'm talking about?
Davis Webb. Was it Davis Webb or Kyle Lauletta that year?
Nope, it was Davis Webb.
It was Davis Webb. Okay. Lauletta was after. Now neither of them are with the team.
That's right. It's absolutely right. So basically what the Giants did right there, it was what I like to call they bought themselves a Lamborghini, but they ignored the mold damage in the basement. And that's what the Jets did by bringing in Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley last year. They bought themselves a flashy new toy to work with, but instead they ignored the essentials because if there's mold damage in the basement, it's going to affect the entire house from there on out. And the Jets neglected to truly address the offensive line. I mean, they did make some moves for a change. They brought in Kaleki Osemele via trade. That one didn't work out. They finally drafted an offensive lineman within the first 2 days of the draft in Chuma Edoga. But the thing is, Edoga was the first offensive lineman the Jets had drafted within the draft's first 3 rounds since Vladimir Dukas back in 2009. And Joe Douglas, when he took over the team in late summer or late in the offseason by NFL standards anyway, he basically made a commitment to the offensive line immediately by convincing Ryan Khalil to come out of retirement. That one didn't work out, but it didn't work out, but it showed that he was willing to, address the offensive line, unlike the negligence on display in the Mike McCagnon. And I'm sorry if I'm monologuing, by the
way. No, you're good. You're good. It's very informative.
But he also traded the team's 7th rounder for Alex Lewis, a trade with the Baltimore Ravens, who actually has been re-signed and is expected to play a larger role in the offensive line this season. So right now, Douglas is planning to, address this offensive line, I believe. And you saw it this offseason. They didn't get necessarily the guys they wanted. Joe Thuney signed with New England, for example, re-signed with New England on a franchise tag, for example. And there were some other guys, Jack Conklin, they missed out on. But in terms of consolation prizes, they did actually pretty well. They brought in Connor McGovern, for example. They brought in Van Roten from Carolina, Greg Van Roten. They brought in George Fant from Seattle, who all of whom are expected to play roles on the starting line this offseason. And I think, too, that this is going to continue in the draft. And I think their number one pick right now is going to be Jedrick Willis out of Alabama, who the Giants have had their eye on, too.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you think he's going to go? Like, which offensive lineman do you think is going to be there at 11? That's where they're drafting, right? 11?
Yes, the Jets are currently slated the 11th pick. There have been discussions, by the way, with the Atlanta Falcons trading down. I think if you're the Jets, I think you shouldn't try to trade out of the quote-unquote lottery selection of the NFL draft. I know we don't really talk about a lot of things in terms of lottery when it comes to the NFL draft. I'm talking about like the top 20 picks. You get it, obviously, the teams that did make it. So I think that Willis will be there. I think that this draft is exceptionally deep in receiver and offensive line. I think that the top receivers, the Jerry Judys, the CeeDee Lambs, are going to be gone by the time the Jets pick at 11.
Oh, wow.
I think they will be gone by then, because offensive line, in my opinion, is probably the most underrated major position in the North American major sports, maybe in all of global sports, because let's face it, offensive line, it doesn't quote move the needle in terms of fan reaction. Like when you cut to the draft parties, do you see people going nuts over on offensive linemen? Really?
No.
Not really. Like, remember when the Jets drafted Shaw Ferguson all those years ago? Everyone was upset they didn't go after Matt Leinart in that draft, and that turned out to be a good move.
Yeah.
And, people don't often wear the offensive lineman jerseys. I think Nick Mangold was an exception, of course. Ferguson was also an exception, of course, in New York. But at the same time, offensive linemen, they're guys who rarely, if ever, show up in the team box score. I mean, how do you do that? You catch a tackle eligible pass. You recover a fumble in the red zone. You make a tackle on an interception or a fumble recovery. So they're not the flashiest moves, obviously, and teams want to bring in that. But when you're the Jets, this is something you have to do after years of offensive line negligence. And I think Willis is going to be that guy, because I think his right tackle experience is really going to pay off well. I think he had a very strong NFL combine, and I think this is the type of guy that the Jets are going to go in the future with, because you have two backfield saviors right now in Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell, and we saw what happened when you don't protect them. Darnold got hurt in his rookie season, cost him 3 games. Le'Veon Bell put up the worst numbers of his career in a 3.2 yardage average. It also reminds me, going back to that 2017 offseason, what the Los Angeles Rams did. Todd Gurley had the worst numbers of his career, so the Rams made several moves on the offensive line. They bid farewell to Greg Robinson, and they brought in Andrew Whitworth, who Jerry Reese later said that season there was not a place for on that Giants team, and that, frankly, could not have been further from the truth.
Yeah.
So, and the Rams started themselves a little mini run. They made it to the playoffs that year, and they made it to the Super Bowl the next season. So I think that the Jets are going to go offensive line with this first round pick, and it shouldn't worry Vince, because this draft is very, very deep at receiver. When guys like KJ Hamler, Donovan Peoples-Jones, another one,
Pittman Jr.
Yes, I'm thinking of the receiver from Arizona State. His name escapes me right now, but Brandon R. He has a name. He has a name. Obviously. No, but that kid from Arizona State. So I think that this is going to be Brandon Ayuk. That's it.
Okay.
Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. He's certainly going to be up for consideration at that pick as well. Chase Claypool is another one from Notre Dame. So
I've seen a lot of Giants mocks with taking him in like the 3rd or 4th or something. But
yeah, sure.
I don't know if he's going to go that far, if he's going to fall that far. He had a really good combine.
He really did. But then again, when these guys are second or day 2 picks in this draft, that's when it's such a deep receiver class. So yeah. I think that the answer can be found. And I think another one to keep an eye on day 3, for example, too, is Joe Reed out of Virginia. I think that he has a very good skill set in the Jets, that he can be a good slot receiver and end zone option. Over the past 2 seasons, he's put up 14 touchdown passes, 7 each, and he can also solve the Jets' kick return woes. When Andre Roberts left last year to go to Buffalo, their kick return game fell from 3rd to 22nd in terms of average, and guys couldn't really get it done back there. Vincent Smith kind of had some late momentum in the late stages, but other guys like Ty Montgomery never found a true spot in the rotation, be it running back or returner, and Braxton Berrios couldn't pick up the slack. So I think that if they bring in Reed, they fill in two of their needs right then and there. I think special teams is something the Jets really should focus on as well in this draft. I think another day 3 option, for example, would be Rodrigo Blankenship, that kicker out of Georgia.
Yeah, Rodrigo with the glasses.
Yes, the bespectacled wonder from Georgia. He's been a staple there. He's been very reliable, and the Jets, their kicker spot was anything but reliable when Jason Myers left last offseason. And when you're the Jets, I think having a kicker is so necessary because now a bit of a disclaimer. I am a bit biased because I used to be a long snapper, so a little special teams bias there. But here's the thing. Today's NFL seems to be trying anything they can to eliminate special teams' role in the game, or at least greatly diminish it a little bit. I think that's unintentional, by the way, but you see it in things like, moving the kickoff up, although I think the XFL did a very solid job in getting a bit of a compromise going there. You saw it in the Alliance of American Football. They eliminated the kickoff entirely. So I think that, and the NFL is trying to not only move the kickoff up, but they already did move the kickoff up, but they're also trying to incentivize touchbacks, moving up 5 yards, and like now touchbacks you start to 25 rather than 20. And also the extra point has taken on a bit of a smaller importance. They moved it back to the 15, but 2-point conversions are set up from the 2. Analytics departments dictate that you should go for 2 more often. You should go for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2 once you get inside, the 40 your own 40-yard line. So special teams has taken on a bit of a diminished role in today's NFL. But when you're the Jets and you have an unproven offense that struggles to reach the end zone, special teams is extremely important because you need to have healthy drives end in some form of points, and you weren't getting that with the inconsistency at the kicker spot last season because the Jets went through 4 different kickers after Myers left for Seattle. They had Chandler Catanzaro. He retired during the preseason. They brought in Taylor Bertolette, who was on an AAF squad. He struggled during the ends up being huge. Vedvik went 0 for 1 in field goals and 0 for 1 in extra points, and that came up huge when the Jets lost by 1 to Buffalo. And then they had Sam Ficken for the rest of the season, who was second to last in field goal percentage last season. And they brought in right now, signed to a futures contract back in late December, Brett Maher, formerly of the Cowboys, who is perhaps the ultimate form of Jekyll and Hyde kicker in
I think I had him on fantasy last year maybe or 2 years ago for a few weeks or something.
Now, were you in one of those leagues that penalized missed field goals?
Yeah.
So you felt it.
It was, I don't know. I went through a lot of kickers last year.
No, that's totally fine. I mean, kicking, for example, it's why I think Carly Lloyd has more than earned an NFL opportunity, for example. But I think that's a conversation. I think that's a conversation for a different day. But I digress. The Jets really need to get a kicker. I think Blankenship would be the ideal pick right there. And they also need to fulfill several other needs in this draft. I think they will fulfill their secondary depth as well. I think they will also look for a spell option for Le'Veon Bell. Someone who stood out to me very recently was the running back out of Memphis in Patrick Taylor, who could be a very solid spell option, especially in short yardage and goal line situations, because right now veterans Bilal Powell and Ty Montgomery are up for free agency. The running back depth behind Le'Veon is very thin right now. I believe Kenneth Dixon is currently slated to be the top back behind Le'Veon right there. But Patrick Taylor could be a day 3 steal, especially considering he had an ankle injury that cost him portions of his senior year. But he's proven himself to be a very good short yardage option and goal line option. So I think that the Jets would be wise in looking at him. Anthony McFarland is someone else who could do that. Guy out of Maryland. Darrington Evans from Appalachian State is another guy I would keep an eye on in terms of that. And I think the Jets need to strengthen up their pass rush. And I think Kenny Willekes would be someone out of Michigan State, 18 sacks over the past 2 seasons. I think he would be a solid option right there. In terms of secondary depth, I would keep an eye on Troy Pride out of Notre Dame and AJ Terrell out of Clemson.
So there's been some rumors about a Jamal Adams trade. What do you know about this? Could this happen? I feel like there's been multiple times there have been, Jamal Adams trade rumors. So is this just another rumor or what's going on?
For the time being, I think this is another rumor because,
Not a lot going on.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to trade Jamal Adams, you need to get a decent amount back for him. This is a type of guy who can become the face of the franchise, even defensively, in an NFL era that seems to very much prioritize fantasy football. Basically, if you breathe on a receiver these days, it's a 30-yard passing appearance.
Yeah.
I think the Jets have, made themselves a team. You walk through the halls of one Jets drive, you see like all kinds of the New York Sack Exchange, for example, Sean Ellis, their likenesses are all over the building, and they're a team that very much prides itself on having a good defense. I mean, that's primarily the reason they needed to back-to-back AFC title games all those years ago. So I think that this is a trade, it's just a rumor for the time being. I do not expect Adams to go. I think that, Joe Douglas back in February mentioned that he wants to make Adams, quote, a Jet for life. And I think that the Jets are still dedicated to that. And, the rumor has it that Adams is a bit dissatisfied that no progress has been made towards a long-term deal for him this offseason. But I think that right now the Jets are focused on more immediate needs. And I think you see that also through the plethora of one-year deals that they've been offering. These are like one-year prove-it deals to these guys. It's basically saying to these guys, look, you guys have performed well when situations are very dire, but now that there is a chance to truly make some noise. Now, I still think it's going to be a tall task for the Jets to make the playoffs, for example, this season. But there are extended opportunities right now. I mean, Tom Brady has left the division at long last. You see the addition of an extra playoff spot that's certainly going to make things as interesting on the AFC front. But here's the thing: the Jets can treat this as a free year almost of research and development, like they kind of did in the late stages of last season. Plenty of guys set up and earned themselves extra years with this team. Guys like Neville Hewitt, guys like Arthur Mallett, guys like Brian Poole, for example. Poole formed a very good relationship with Adams back there and earned himself another year with the team on a bargain price, I might add. So that was well done. So I think that, right now the Jets are focused on contending on wrapping up short-term goals right now, and they'll deal with the Adams situation when they absolutely have to next year before his fifth-year option kicks in, because Adams, frankly, right now does not have as much leverage as he would like with the Jets right now, because Jets can extend that fifth-year option on him, and if it did extend to a sixth year, they could simply franchise tag him. Of course, that would probably that could lead to a holdout, but it's something that the Jets will, deal with when the time is right. So I don't think it's going to happen. And another guy who doesn't think it's going to happen, a trade that is, another guy who doesn't think that's going to happen is Adams' teammate in the secondary in Bless Austin, who turned out to be one of the diamonds in the rough in the sixth round last year. Austin was a Rutgers alum, limited to 4 games over the past over his final 2 years in Piscataway. But he did, in his sophomore year, he did finish, I believe, second in the Big Ten in pass defenses, and he turned out to have a solid year for the Jets last season, especially when injuries struck the lineup to guys like Trumaine Johnson and whatnot. So he responded to Adam Schefter's tweet announcing that the Jets could be shopping Adams during the weekend. He said, "Adam, relax." So I think that, so I think that I would foresee a trade happening this week. If this situation extends, it's something to keep an eye on, but I think the Jets have other more pressing deals, more immediate deals to focus on right now.
Makes sense. So I've been asking this question to everyone. The Giants, offensive lineman or Isaiah Simmons? And I think my stance has honestly changed on this a little bit. I was Isaiah Simmons towards, I don't know, like the combine area. I don't know now. I'm thinking maybe, a guy like Wirfs they could take, even at 4. I don't know. If they trade back to maybe 9, if they do a deal with, let's say, Jacksonville or something and still get a top offensive lineman. I feel like I know what you're going to say, though.
Why? What do you think I'm going to say?
I think you're going to say O-line.
No, you're right. I am going to say O-line because, look, Simmons would be – I think it's almost a situation where you can't go wrong either way because Simmons would provide a pass rush at a time where it's desperately needed because you look at the NFCs. It's the same thing I've been saying about the Jets, who now have to deal with Josh Allen for the foreseeable future, and their pass rush has been pretty bad. It has been pretty bad over the past few seasons. And when you have to deal with a multi-talented threat like Josh Allen, a good pass rush becomes imperative. And it's the same thing in the Giants case because they're going to be dealing with Carson Wentz. They're going to be dealing with Dak Prescott. They have dealt with Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Dwayne Haskins in Washington, but he's also someone you might have to deal with twice on a yearly basis for the foreseeable future. So Simmons certainly does have his place there, but then again, you also need to focus on your two potential backfield saviors once again.
And you're going to sorry, I just cut you off, but you're going to have to go against Chase Young twice a year. That's like the most crazy part about winning that game versus the Redskins in, what was it, late December last year?
I think it was week 17.
Yeah, it was like in overtime. The tank-a-thon, the tank bowl, whatever, and they won. And not only do they miss out on Chase Young then, they got to play him twice a year for I don't know how long.
Loses.
The what?
Even the winner loses.
Yeah, even the winner. The winner did lose. The real winner was the loser. In my mind. I know you're not into tanking. I know you don't like tanking, but it was. I mean, I'm not really into tanking either, even though I'm a Knicks fan. But that game was just like, wow. I was not happy with the win.
I mean, I think that sentence right there, it basically describes Giants fanhood over the past 3 years. That in right there. And I think I made it clear during Liberty season. I really do not like tanking at all.
I remember that last game of the season. What was it versus the Fever?
Dream.
It was
the last game.
The last home game was versus the Fever, right?
Oh, yeah,
it was close. They had the lead, and then Liberty Cup. And then they lost. But who knows what would have happened with the draft if they won?
I mean, the way I see it too.
Who knows? It's in the past now though, but yeah.
I mean, no use speculating on what if. I mean, the way I see it, you want to avoid building a losing culture as much as you can.
Oh yeah.
When you get used to, and it's unfortunate because it looks like the Giants have built kind of a losing culture over there because it's bad when your top 5 picks when being in the top 5 of the draft becomes a yearly thing. Suddenly it's a Seinfeld episode where Elaine runs into a string of bad luck and she starts screaming, I'm George, and you're basically screaming at this point, I'm Cleveland at this point.
Cleveland has the 10th overall pick.
What's that?
Cleveland has the 10th overall pick, so they're 4 spots back. Yeah, 4 spots back.
Yes.
Wait, 4? Wait. They have the
behind the Giants.
Are they? How many spots are they behind the Giants? Wait, math.
Math is hard.
6 spots.
There you go.
I just said 4. No, because they had the 6th overall pick last year. That's why. That's why I said I got confused. All this losing has got me confused.
Losing culture, taking another L. But
losing culture is making me lose brain cells.
No, but I think that they will go on because you also, after this point, you have to almost justify the selection of Saquon Barkley by passing on all those talented quarterbacks in that one draft. I personally was a fan of the Saquon one. That was basically something to say, like, he was the once in a lifetime talent. Running backs had worked their way back into NFL relevancy. But now you almost have to continue to justify it by providing him with protection, and you also have to justify the selection of Daniel Jones, who many saw as a reach as well. So I think that offensive line is going to do that, and in today's offensive-minded NFL, that's something you need to do. Like, how many times have we seen in recent years? It feels like we've seen a lot more games than usual where teams are scoring 4 touchdowns, 28 points, and still lose. We've seen
that
so
happened
many.
To the Giants a lot last year.
Oh, it did. I mean,
Daniel Jones had some good fantasy games. Let me just say that. There were some good fantasy games that are like 4 touchdowns or something, or 3 touchdowns.
Now it's a case of turning into, say, for example, I know. I know. I picked on this guy long enough. Kirk Cousins, for example. Like, how many times have we seen Kirk Cousins throw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns? His team still comes down to losing end. Tony Romo was another guy like that who would throw for 5 or 6 touchdown passes a game, 400 yards. And I'm thinking of that one Denver game, of course. Obviously, his one interception turned out to be the difference between winning or losing. We've seen so many shutouts in recent NFL memories. So I think that's what you have to do. You have to bolster that offensive line a bit. So I think the Giants will go linemen, especially if they trade out.
Yeah, I think I know a lot of people still want Simmons, but I think I'm at the point where I'm like, just go O-line.
Yeah.
It's not the cool pick or like the
Yeah.
flashy pick, but for the sake of the flashy players that they already have, just go with the sound pick. They haven't had a good offensive line in whatever, how many years. I don't even know. So we talked a little bit about the WNBA for a quick sec there. So the draft was Friday night. And what did you think of the draft? Just like overall thoughts.
Well, I thought it was a win all around for the W as a whole last night because it comes
No
under
L's.
No L's.
No L's. No L's were taken.
Unlike you.
Yeah. Oh, my L necklace isn't on right now.
I mean, literally, you have L's because you got what, 3 in your name alone?
Yeah, and my middle name I have one too. Oh no, 4 L's in one name.
Your name is like a giant September, 4 L's right there. Ooh, I went there. But okay, but
I have to end the Zoom now. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but
you just took it too far.
I did. There was a line and I crossed. But, the WNBA, I think that, it obviously comes under less than ideal circumstances, of course, but it was great to see that for one night, that league, which has, dealt with a lot of which has dealt with a lot of systematic obstacles, which has dealt with a lot of immaturity from the outside world, which has dealt with a lot of problems to work with, but they work so hard. They still managed to put out a very good product. It was great to see them, if only for a short while, rule the sports landscape out there. So I thought it was very well done. I thought there was that tribute to the young players that tragically perished in the helicopter crash. I thought that was very tastefully done. They did a great job there.
Me too.
One thing you can't say about the WNBA is the charitable causes they make. They've done a very good job in that department. They do a great job of expanding their reach beyond the sport. I think they do a fantastic job with that. So I thought the presentation was very good. I certainly hope that the NFL took notes on that. Yeah. They kind of lost some steam toward the end there. There are ways to honor Kobe Bryant while paying tribute to the people getting selected. And when literally nothing else is going on, if really you could have shown the second and third round picks, all of the second, third round picks getting their names called and whatnot. So yeah, maybe they did run out of steam there a little bit, but at the same time, I thought they did a very good job. I really think, ESPN put their top minds on it. They brought in Sue Bird, they brought in Holly Rowe, Rebecca Lobo, and Ryan Rucco did a great job in the socially distanced studio. Yeah. And Lobo does a good job as a color commentator as is, and Holly does a great job on the sidelines as their top, basketball experts over there. And Rucco, I'm sure you and I adore his exploits on for Yankee games. He does a great job in that respect. So I thought overall, all in all, a fantastic show, a great job, and it was great to see the W, if only for a short while, have the floor when it comes to sports. So good on them. And I think they did a great job too of restoring normalcy, if only while, for the American sports fan right now. I think the NFL has a great opportunity to do that. NASCAR has done that as well with their virtual races being nationally televised in the Pro Invitational Series. Their latest edition of that was this afternoon. I think that they've done a good job. They did a good job, and I think another rant I guess I could have about the draft about the draft as a whole. I think that if there was anything that proved that we need expansion, be it a roster expansions or team expansions, finding a new place to go on the map. I think that Friday night proved it, because there are going to be some very talented players left off the rosters of teams. Like you look at the Liberty, for example.
I have a question about that. Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to that. But they bring in all those rookies and whatnot. A good number of those might well not be on the roster if and when we're able to play basketball this season. So I think that Bill Laimbeer said the same thing. By the way, he advocated for. I remember when the Las Vegas Aces visited Westchester in June. He said that rosters should be expanded. He also advocated for a longer game, going for a 48-minute game instead of 30 minutes, so that way it would show more names out there. So I think that we've been talking about expansion of the WNBA for a while, and be it in rosters or cities. And cities, I've always been a big advocate for seeing Tampa Bay be added. Tampa Bay has been my one city to always add because you have a decent arena, Amalie Arena, where the Tampa Bay Lightning have made a strong name for themselves. And when they hosted the Final Four a couple years back, it was massive crowds, all very passionate. And I think if that, I don't think they saw it as an audition, quote unquote, for WNBA. I think if anyone saw it that way, they would have passed with flying colors. They did a great job with that. So I think that Tampa Bay would be my choice for expansion at this point, and that's what Thursday proved. We need more teams, or we need more roster spots. So those are those. If those are the biggest complaints I can make, I think overall they did a great job. They did a great job of restoring hope and normalcy to the American sports fan. And there was that draft night vibe for sure. The proceedings did not take away from the genuine joy that is draft night. So I think that was all very well done.
So if you had to choose just one winner from the draft, like only one draft winner, high pressure, who is the one draft winner, like team wise?
Oh my God! So suddenly my signal's a little shaky right now. Oh dear. I mean, look.
Don't take an L. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I would say, hey, if we're going by winners, I think it would be women's basketball as a whole right now. No, I think that's such a cop out.
Team.
So go with it. Yes, that is an L.
Team.
That is an L. So. But in terms of draft winners, I mean, you could certainly say New York, if only for the Ionescu selection alone. I think Dallas certainly came big. I think if I'm limited to one, it probably would be Dallas at this point because they came in with a plethora of draft picks as of Friday's results, and then they made the trade with the Liberty that involved Tina Charles and whatnot. But they really made the most out of their first round picks, I believe. They brought in Sabali, Hillary, Harris, so I think those are all going to be very interesting. I think Dallas is going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch if and when we get basketball, because I think you and I talked about it before we came on recently, how with all the departures, of course, they lost Skylar Diggins-Smith, they lost Imani McGee-Stafford, who is going to, I believe, pursue a law degree in the next few years.
I think next 2 seasons?
Yes, next 2 seasons. That's absolutely right. They don't have anyone at the age of 30 on the roster. And
yeah, they're so young.
I think their oldest player right now is about 26. So you and I might have. I know you're a bit younger. You and I might be older than the Dallas Wings as a whole right now. But I think they're going to be one of the more intriguing teams to watch. And in terms of, I said this on Twitter the other day. So I think in terms of one team that came out best, I think Dallas certainly fit that bill. And I think another thing, if I made an early choice for Rookie of the Year at this point, it would probably be Ionescu or Chennedy Carter, who went to Atlanta. Because one of the criteria I like to use in terms of voting for Rookie of the Year is who is most valuable to the team. Like which of the rookies best put the V in MVP. And I think right now Ionescu or Carter would fit that bill as best as they can. I expect them to fit the bill as best as they can going into the 2020 campaign.
I feel like we just need to talk about like the Ionescu effect for a second, because Friday so many people were posting about her and the league that I didn't even know knew about or followed women's basketball. I was watching her profile, her Instagram profile before the draft, just curious to see how many followers she had, because a big thing with the league is exposure, getting on ESPN, getting more games broadcasted on ESPN. And I just was curious to see like what kind of following she had, because probably the best player in college basketball in like the past like a very long time, right? So she had around, I'm gonna say like 300 something thousand. I don't know exactly what number in the 300,000 range. I know it's really vague.
Sure.
Around Thursday or something, but Friday night and Saturday she had like 430 something thousand. Wait, I just want to pull it up right now.
What do you think?
Let's see.
No, you kept me updated on that, and that was very good. That was a very good stat on your end. I mean,
She has 452,000 now.
wow.
So we're talking about just like exposure of the
Yes.
league. Players can generate exposure for the league by themselves, just like that's a huge, like the Sabrina effect. Like that's real.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like
look,
100%. Like in New York, that's gonna be. I just think it's gonna be so crazy.
that is going to be something that we keep an eye on for the next few seasons. I mean, call it a stroke of luck that Ionescu ended up in New York. Like New York, a team. If you come on, we hear it after every Yankee game. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Like New York. I spoke to Kathy Engelbert back in September, and she was very hopeful for a future in Liberty because she basically said, like, if you can get it going in New York, you can get it going anywhere. And that is our flagship franchise in a sense. I mean, she obviously didn't want to put that in the other.
Yeah.
And Taj McWilliams Franklin, who I also spoke to, said the same thing, how like New York is like the franchise. Like you look everywhere, everyone looks to New York as the gold standard, no matter how good or bad you are. Because I mean, no offense, I know you're a Knicks fan, but this is why you see on a cold night in February, the 14-40 Knicks are going on ESPN nearly every night. You've seen it.
Yeah.
They've had so many national appearances. This is why New York is a lot. And New York is also a town. Obviously, they have teams in every sport, but New York is a town that I think if you had to narrow it down to one, basketball is at the summit of priorities, because this town where places like Rucker Park, the Cage on 4th Street, places like that, these are icons of the city. And unfortunately New York has not had much to celebrate, especially when it comes to their men's teams, because the Knicks are the Knicks and the Nets are basically a team of false starts. So
like New York just needs one good basketball team, one good professional basketball team. And the Liberty honestly could be it.
Yes.
I mean, the Nets, obviously, with KD coming back next year, Kyrie Irving will probably be healthy next season. But both those guys play in the Barclays Center. Unfortunately, the Knicks might be left out of this, like, success. As of right now, we don't know what's going to happen in free agency 2021. But listen, like, the Liberty could be that team.
No, undoubtedly
New York loves basketball. Just I feel like people don't care, men's or women's. People love basketball in the city, and you just give them a taste of success that they haven't had in so long. It's going to be special. Okay, so we kind of mentioned this a little bit before you brought this up, how there's only 12 spots on 12 rosters. So the Liberty drafted 6 players. That's half a roster right there. Who's going to make this roster? Because unfortunately, people are going to get cut.
No, people are going to get cut. And like I said, there's going to be some very talented players left sitting at home. And it's not just of the rookie variety. If you look on this roster too, like I fear for Rashonda Gray, for example, because, she was the 12th woman on this team last year and came out. She hadn't played a WNBA regular season game in 4 years. And she came out and had a fantastic season. She came out and she really developed under Sharman Smith, made a big impression in the lineup, especially when Amanda Zawi went to go play in Eurobasket. So, I certainly hope there's a place for her on this roster. So I think that, someone we have to keep an eye on for, obviously, Ionescu is going to make the team, because if not, what are we doing here? But I think Megan Walker is relatively safe. Well, Walker is someone who kind of was a best player available type selection. And, I think that she can shoot really well and someone who could really help with the scoring and whatnot. Jocelyn Willoughby is someone I'm really looking forward to seeing as well because, Willoughby is someone who can truly get to the foul line. I think you and I were talking about it recently
Yeah.
where the second half of last
That
season.
crazy stat you have about like getting to the line. What was it?
The Liberty in the second half of the season, or the last 15 games anyway, the Liberty reached the foul line less than 15 times a game, 14.9 per game over the last 15 games. Willoughby reached the line 10 times alone in her senior year, 6 times. That's insane to me. That's insane to me. But I think that's certainly a valuable skill. Get those 3 points as much as you can. And she shot 87% from the line. So I think that's going to become a invaluable tool. So I think the ones you have to worry about, there are going to be, there's going to be some pressure on people like Jasmine Jones, people like Kylie Shook, so who are of course very talented, but they could find themselves not on a roster next year. So I think too, there is a bit of a silver lining perhaps because, who knows what things are going to be like once we do get the green light for a season, be it with fans, be it without fans, be it whatever. Once we determine what the season is going to look like, who knows how things are going to play out on an international level. You might have some players who, opt to stay home voluntarily until, everything is truly in the clear once we have a stronger sense of normalcy. And the Liberty, are very representative in their rosters. So you basically have a virtual United Nations with this roster. I think, they're
shout out Jackie.
Yes, that's right.
That's Jackie's thing. Shout out to our Jackie, the classic J-Pow.
The classic J-Pow, that's right. But there are 18 players on this roster who represent 6 different countries right now, and who knows how they're going to feel about coming back so soon if we end up rushing it. And we obviously hope they don't rush it, and we obviously want basketball, but we obviously want basketball.
Safety,
but we hope
number one. Yeah.
Safety should come first. And if and when you get the green light from, medical professionals, I think that, see what you can do. Take their advice and see what you can do. So I think, they did set themselves well up in that regard. And they're going to be like Dallas. They're going to be a team that is young.
They're so young.
Yes. Oh, they're very
I think,
young.
Is anyone over 30 on their roster?
No. LaShia Clarendon turns 30 in November, but other than that, no.
So while they play, they'll under 30.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
That's right. It's going to be interesting. And I think that, I really appreciate what the Liberty are trying to do. They remind me a lot of, what the Golden State Warriors and Villanova Wildcats have done on the men's level, in the sense that, they're trying to use talented young guards, shoot the deep ball. That's what it appears they're doing anyway.
Yeah.
I really get to play the game, but new head coach Walt Hawkins did express a desire to shoot the 3 more this year. So I think from that standpoint, if you can emulate what Golden State and Villanova has done in recent years, I think that you're on the right track. And in terms of a more contemporary setting, I think that what the Liberty should do is see what the Las Vegas Aces have been able to do over the past few years. Because, 2018 Las Vegas, the Liberty let's face it, the Liberty are basically a new team at this point. New logo, really. New home, new players, new everything. The roster looks very different, although you do have some reliable veterans. I'm really looking forward to see Rebecca Allen play this season. I'm sure you're in that boat as well. Minizawi B should take on an expanded role.
Yeah.
Kia Stokes will be returning. She's the all-time leader in blocks in team history. I'm very eager to see her get back there. But basically, the Liberty are the world's oldest expansion team at this point. And, they also are in a similar boat to where Vegas was just 2 years ago. The Vegas, of course, was the artist formerly known as San Antonio Silver Stars. And they moved to Vegas and, new arena, number 1 pick in Asia Wilson. And basically, Ionescu is their Asia Wilson at this point. What an attainable goal should be this year, keeping with teams, developing a new fan base, getting the city pumped up, and
lit.
Go ahead.
Lit.
Yes, lit. Be lit, basically. Be lit should be the goal this year in terms
Like a
of
torch, lit like a torch.
yes,
I need to
perfect.
leave.
I mean,
I need to leave. I need to go now. Lit like a torch. That's it.
don't
It's too
don't do
cringy. It's too
don't do it.
cheesy.
Don't do it at the Westchester County Center. You might burn the building down. But do it at Barclays Center. But I think that no, I think that
They did light that torch. They did do that though. They
Yes,
did. They did.
they
I
did.
remember that now.
People
I
are.
wonder if it said like "get lit" like on the jumbotron, like as they lit it.
I mean that should be the team's.
This is like the dumbest pun I've ever made. Get
no.
lit.
I like it though. I like it a lot though.
And it's like, when it's like fourth quarter or whatever, and everyone's like, get on your feet. And they have like the players like, get on your feet.
Yes.
Whatever, like from media day. And then they have like, they hold torches and they're like, get lit.
Yes. I mean,
they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't.
Frankly, I love the, I love the fourth quarter song. I mean, we were talking about the pregame.
Wait,
song.
what's the fourth quarter song again? I'm blinking.
The fourth quarter song where they spell out the team name, the L.
I thought that was the beginning of the game. See, so what just happened between September and now?
Yeah,
I was trying to think. I was like, what's the song they play at the beginning of the games? It's like, and you're like, I was like, New York, New York.
Yeah, that one's more the I think Rhapsody sings it. That one's the pregame.
That's
song.
like the theme song.
Yes, yeah, the fight.
But I was blanking on it today, even though I heard it like every single game I was there.
But just to finish my point, that should be competitive this year. That should be the goal. Vegas ended up missing out in the playoffs this year by one game, and it kind of wasn't their fault. There was the travel issue they had going to Washington that one year, so that they cost them that one game. So if you could get to that level, that would be considered a win. And then once you have established a fan base, reestablished your stance in the city and whatnot, that's when you can lure in your Liz Cambage or someone like that. Because I'm not entirely sure what the 2021 free agency picture looks right now. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. Heck, maybe you could lure Tina back, especially because she.
Ooh.
Get back in here. I mean, we're getting way ahead. We're getting way ahead of our. Like, let's slow it down. But at the same time, it's something to consider. It's something to think about. But if you can follow that Las Vegas Aces model, you're doing something right, and I think that should be the Liberty's goal this year.
Honestly, they remind me of the Rockets, like from what they did this trade deadline, trading Clint Capella. Like they're playing such small ball in Houston. I mean, the Liberty, like they're playing small ball for real. I think Zowie B is going to be like the real center. Yes. Has to be getting a lot of boards because
I think Stokes will be.
Okay.
I think Stokes will be. I think in terms of the starting five right now, I think very, very preliminary starting five would be Stokes, Zowie B, then Nurse Wilson. Nurse Ionescu.
And then you have Nurse at the 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think has to happen this year.
And Rebecca Allen, we've talked about. I think she's going to be a great spark off the bench. She's my pick for 6th woman right now. And Han Shu will be should she opt to play in America this season would be the interior spark off the bench.
Mm-hmm. What about Maureen Johannes?
Oh, Maureen's obviously going to play a role too. She would be in the same realm as Beck Allen in the 6th, 7th woman slot.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to I feel like everyone's gonna have to play up a position almost because they're such a small team.
They are, but it's like I said, they follow something along the Villanova or the Golden State method. If you're in a position where Amanda Zowie B can be your Draymond Green, for example, I think you're in a good. I think you're in a good situation.
I mean, I think they're going to be so fun to watch, though, because every single player on the floor can shoot from all 3 levels. Well, not all 3 levels, but, I don't know if you're going to have, your guard just, driving in the paint super hard all the time. I don't think that's what Walt wants, but, everyone out there can at least shoot the 3.
Yes.
Pretty well. It's going to be – I think it's going to be fun to watch.
And everyone, too, I wrote about it earlier today on ESNY. I mentioned how – Walt Hopkins' defining trait for his he wanted players of high character, and I think that in that endeavor, he very much succeeded. And it's a situation where New York has a team they can root for.
Yeah. No, I definitely think so. I think it's just gonna I think it's gonna be such a fun offense to watch. I mean, obviously 2K isn't real basketball, but whenever I make my 2K player, they're always a 3-point shooter. So I'm happy to watch just like consistently shooting the 3. It's just my favorite style to watch.
No, of course. And hey, and you know what? It's the future of basketball. I mean, no team has revolutionized basketball more than Golden State. And look at the success they've been able to have. I think you see it too, to a lesser extent, with the Chicago Sky, for example. They've really built their team around Allie Quigley's 3-point shooting. So I think that they are a team that's starting to revolutionize the game a little bit. I think they're a team that in the immediate future is going to be very, very dangerous.
How do you think things are going to go on defense? Because you're going to have, this crazy offense, but how is it going to work on defense?
For New York?
Because what happens when you play a team like the Fever, who have big bigs, and then you play a team even like the Aces with Cambage and Wilson? How do you deal with that?
I think that's something that's when you really have to hunker down on the 3-point shooting. That's something you really have to keep an eye on. And it's something where Honshu basically has to take the next step in her game, because you remember the opening game of the season against Indiana. She played like a minute. She had to go up against Tara McCowan in there. It did not go well. It did not go well at all. So I think that, this is a big offseason for Han in terms of getting stronger and honing her game a little bit. And then you recall she got into the final stages of a loss against Vegas, and she did not allow Cambage to score a point in about the 4 or 5 minutes they spent together on the field. And I talked to Han after that game, and one of the things that really stuck with me is Han does not back down from a challenge. And she basically said, "I'm not afraid of Cambage." And she said a quote that really stood out to me. She said,
I feel like I know what this one is.
I'm tall too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one really stood out to me. It really.
That was a great quote.
It is a great quote, because this is a 19-year-old coming from China, and still working with a translator or whatnot, and she came in and did a fantastic job. It's like she barely missed a step in those 4 or 5 minutes against Cambage, and she did not back down from a challenge. So most players would come out there, they basically cringe and make excuses out there. It's like, oh, I don't think I can do this, but she did a great job in Cambage, and that's another thing that really stands out to me about this team. I mean, they're so full of high quality character players in there. Like going back to Han, like for example, when reporters surrounded her locker after a game last year, her translator wasn't available one time, but Asia Joe did a great job answering the questions, and Beck Allen did the same thing for Maureen Johannes after that win over LA, where Johannes had a perfect game. So I think that this is a team that to answer your question about the defense, I think that yes, it's going to be a challenge. You're going to have to step up, but I think you definitely receive a boost in the return of Kia Stokes, who, once again, only 4 or 5 years on the team, already is the team's all-time leader in blocks. So I think that they are going to receive a boost from Kia Stokes returning. And she's mostly come off the bench in her career, but I think that she's going to take the next step this year, and I think they're really going to benefit, because she sat out all of last season. She originally played for Turkey in Eurobasket competition, and then opted to sit out the entirety of the year for personal reasons. So but she did show up in the last game. Was very much seemed to be welcomed back. Seemed to be in very good spirits. Was welcomed back by everybody, and I think that this team is going to enjoy a spark from Kia Stokes being back in the lineup.
So this is the big question. Do they make the playoffs if this season happens?
Oh man, it's way too early to tell on that one. I mean, look, I usually if it happens, if it does happen, I think they can. I mean, I think
they can make an 8 seed. I think
they certainly can. Like, I think they can even go up to 5. I think if all goes well for them. I mean, obviously, if all goes well, you could start talking about even higher. But nothing ever seems to go well, and no matter who you are. But I think the beautiful thing about the WNBA is that every team, it would not shock me if any of these teams made the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Even downtrodden Atlanta, like if Kennedy Carter gets it together immediately, there's no telling what they can do in there. And Nikki Collin is is a brilliant basketball mind. So I
Dallas
think
too. Like Dallas could be really good
yeah.
this year.
Oh,
They're really young too, but it's just like I feel like the Liberty and Dallas are two teams that, depending on how fast their young players get used to the league and the new speed and everything,
right.
depends on their ceiling.
Yes, it
But I
does.
think they could both be surprisingly good.
Yes, they can. I expect those teams, like, sure, they might struggle, but even in defeat, they're going to be amazing to watch. Like, you know
Mm-hmm.
how everyone talks about the concept of, quote unquote, league pass teams, like the teams you stay up to watch no matter what.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it? Yeah, like
Yeah.
league pass. Like mine, for example, I think would probably be Portland or Utah at the NBA
Mm-hmm.
level. Because I love watching Dame Lillard play and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So I think Portland would be my first like that. Orlando seems to be popular on a lot of people's lists. That's a good comparison right there, because the Orlando Magic are relatively young
Mm-hmm.
and still make a lot of do out of it. But
Or
yeah,
even Atlanta. They remind me of Atlanta a little bit.
yeah, sure,
With Young
sure.
and like I mean I love watching Trae Young, but
Yes, there's
just like
another
that
great.
3-point shooting, like we're gonna be
But
pulling up from the logo now.
oh my god, hey, the logo is big enough, am I right? But
Oh
no,
yeah, I
but
mean no, you're
yeah.
good.
Thank you. But yeah, I think the Liberty and Dallas would be tremendous league pass teams. Like, you are going to drop what you're doing to watch what the Liberty or Wings do this season. Like, if you have a pressing matter, if you got to go out somewhere, if you're going to dinner, if you're going to if you're going to a baseball game, you will drop that matter to watch the Liberty or Wings, or you will at the very least record it and enjoy it later and avoid all traces of it on social media,
Yeah.
because you you want to see these teams play, and you will want to see what they can do, because what they're doing is interesting. It's like watching an experiment. It's like planting a tree and going back to see every 5 minutes to see how much progress you've made.
Yeah.
And a lot of basketball fans, from a basketball standpoint, they're going to be must see television this year. And if they make the play, and they're also in a position where it's like, if you miss the playoffs, darn it, it's a shame. If you make the playoffs, wow, we're ahead of schedule. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that those are the two league pass teams you got to keep an eye on this year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what both those teams could do. And, New York, Dallas, we've spoken so many times about the football rivalry, could really turn to something special
Ooh, yeah, I never even thought of that.
yeah. I mean,
New York
one, two.
Dallas basketball edition.
I mean, you have Sabrina versus Satu Sabali going number 2 to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
That could be something for years to come. And you make the New York Dallas rivalry. I mean, come on. I mean, football has been the haven if you're really that crazy over a New York Dallas rivalry, because
Yeah.
the Knicks and Mavericks. Who cares? Come on, the
Yeah.
Yankees and Rangers, yeah, they met a couple times in the '90s, and they met a couple times in the playoffs in the '90s and the late 2000s, and they were one-sided each time. Yankees taking a forward, Rangers taking a ladder, and Rangers Stars. You can't do that; it's totally different conferences. But this can be a fantastic opportunity to develop a East Coast Southwestern rivalry. It's going to be really interesting to see, and I'm looking forward to it. I really hope we get some basketball this year.
Yeah, I feel like there could be more rivalries in the WNBA. I feel like we got one now in the Mystics and the Aces, like from last year's playoff series. There is some trash talking there, and I don't know. I think that's good for the league. I mean, maybe trash talking isn't like good, but
It's not the
it makes
ideal
things interesting. Social media with everything, even with like NBA social media with trash talking or whatever, players talking to each other. I think Cam Beige posted something, was it today on Twitter? Did you see that of like she needs some milk versus Washington?
Yes, I remember that.
So she posted that I think today.
Oh,
And it just reminded me of that series. I mean, that was a crazy series. That was a good series.
I mean, it's kind of good because you and I were talking about it before. We're basically trying to pump up every team's writers. I think is trying to like pump up their teams and whatnot. I think it's the same way on the player level too. The players realize, in a sense, that they're all in this together, and it's in a sense that in some cases they kind of have to be friendly. They kind of have to be cheerleaders, because there are a lot of obstacles, and there are a lot of obstacles to get on quote unquote mainstream, and not all of them. Let's face it, not all of them are fair. So it's almost a sense of, united we stand in a way. I think we'll get into that level, and I think if we can develop healthy rivalries, that'd be another great.
Definitely healthy rivalries, not like
Yes.
fights, not like fights.
No, God.
What was the fight last year? Mercury versus was it Dallas?
Yes, it was Dallas. It was Dallas last year.
That was, I don't know. I remember I saw that online. It was like 10 o'clock and it just popped up because it was a West Coast game.
I remember that. I think it was the
I was
day
like,
before.
whoa.
Yeah. I mean,
this is like,
that,
whoa.
that, like, for the first time, Sports Center was talking about the WNBA, but it was coming in the most negative connotations possible. Like, this is why you're not popular, and shut up. How about that? All right.
I mean, like, I just think you don't cover, like, so you're not giving the sport enough coverage, right? And then you just throw out a fight. Like, that's not the best look to give a league at all.
Exactly.
It's a bad look.
Exactly. And, I think that, when I think the players.
It's one thing if they're covering the league to the extent they should be before, and then you post it. But then if you don't post anything ever, it's just like, look, a fight. It's like, okay, what's the context for this?
It's like, hey, look at these people in this niche sport. All they could do is fight. You know what? Maybe you cover more, you realize they're a lot more than that. So I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of how that was approached. But if you can build healthy rivalries, that's when you know it's good.
Something for I think, fans to really get into.
Yeah. Something
like, boo. No, just kidding.
No, something where you like whip the calendar out and you circle it. Like if you could be on the Liberty right now and like whip out the calendar, say like, hey, it's Dallas week. Let's get it.
Yeah,
so
let's get it. Lit.
Yeah, like, hey folks, it's Connecticut week. Don't you hate New York, Boston?
Connecticut week. Can we just say Connecticut fans traveled really well? I mean, I know it's just like one state over, but still, there were so many of them there at the Westchester County Center last season. It was like so loud for Connecticut people. I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
They play like East in Connecticut. Like it's not.
Yeah.
They're playing Eastern Connecticut. That was.
I mean, I give them a lot of credit too because I've been to Mohegan Sun a few times and I love the trip every time. And not only because there's a fantastic Krispy Kreme donut shop right across from the arena entrance. Yeah, no, I trust me. When I go to Mohegan Sun, I prepare myself. I gain I gain 5 pounds every time I head up there, but it's fine. It's tolerable. But and I really hope we can make the trip this year. But obviously.
Oh yeah, we don't even know what's gonna happen.
I know.
That was supposed to be the first game of the season, I think.
Yes, it was. May 16th was supposed to be the debut. I felt bad. I have my calendar here in front of me.
That's so sad. That would have been so soon. What's today's date?
Today
19th.
And
training camp would have been starting so soon.
9 days. 9 days away. I got the calendar right here. I had to go into next month too, and I crossed out all the days right now. It was sad. Like that. Like there were. I'll be honest throughout this process. I'm trying to stay strong, and if anyone needs to talk, just remember my direct messages are always open.
I'll put your tag in the bottom. I usually do that with my little design.
I love it, but I'm trying to stay positive. There were two things that were like, oh my god, this is real. First of all, they pushed back my favorite show when they said my favorite show is Fargo. They were coming back.
Not Better Call Saul.
Yes. I mean, Better Call Saul has helped me keep track of what day it is pretty much. Mondays at 9 on AMC, and I'm like, and unfortunately the series finale, not the series finale, the season finale is tomorrow, and I'm like,
oh no, yikes.
No, but when they said Fargo was season 4 was supposed to start tonight, and when they said we have to postpone it because of the situation, I was like, that broke me for a second, and so did crossing out the states right here. That broke me. That was like, oh my god, it's real. And obviously I get.
Yeah, we're not like being like, oh, we're all about the safety.
By all means,
we're all about that. Clearly, we get it. We're in New York and Jersey. Like we are not wanting to go outside right now.
No, not
like we don't want to at all. I've been inside. Like I've been sitting inside since the 11th of March.
I mean, hey, you're doing.
And I don't want to go out, obviously, but like you got to do what you got to do.
No, of course. I mean, you're doing good work. I mean, everybody's helping people. I think and you've been doing you've been doing fine. And I think the thing is basically just occupy yourself during this time. And
Yeah.
I think we've been doing a good job of that.
The draft was good for that.
The draft was great. I've been compiling when each player's birthday is, doing like their best plays.
Oh yeah, that was another thing I like. You have like very creative articles.
Oh my God, thank you so
And
much.
today's one with the Taylor Swift reference to open it, I was like, oh, I know who wrote this.
Yes.
It was either that or Star Wars reference would be like the cue.
I mean,
would be like the tip off of to who wrote it if I didn't see the byline.
No, yeah. I said the Liberty's new era is totally like Taylor's Reputation era, but
is that no, that's not. That's 1980. Is that what the album's called? 1989.
1989's back there. That's right. That's my.
Is that Reputation as it says 1989 across it?
That's the album 1989. I mean, whatever. But back to the point. I think that just keeping yourself busy in this period has been very helpful, and cope how you can. Look, later this summer, I hope I will be watching I hope to be watching a Royals Mariners game or something like that in the top of the seventh, and it's like 3-1, but there's like 4 combined hits between the two. I will watch that like it's the 7th game of the World Series.
You were saying that about the preseason games too, and I'm like, that's like facts, because I always complain about preseason games, but now we're like, yeah, preseason football. I'm weird.
I'll admit, I'm super weird when it comes to preseason football.
You like preseason?
Look, can we cut it down? Yes, but I would be lying to you if I didn't enjoy the process every summer where it's like we get to see like the rookies that were popular in college and fighting for the roster and whatnot. And I also it's a guilty pleasure of mine. I'll leave it at that. It's like guilty. It's a guilty pleasure. Like the NIT too. I will definitely watch. I will get into it. I will fill out an NIT bracket. I will do it. I will. That's something. But at the same time, I understand where it's like, yes, we can cut down the preseason games. I also think you shouldn't charge fans full price for them. That's
I mean, I always get so hyped for preseason because I'm like football, and I like think it's gonna be like regular season, and then I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. When you go into when the third stringer out of Slippery Rock is throwing like that. 10 feet away from the receivers with single-digit numbers on their jerseys.
Yeah, the single-digit numbers. That's how you know, like, who's wearing single-digit numbers. Got, like, wide receivers wearing number 1. That's how you know you're in preseason.
But I remember Victor Cruz's first big game against the Jets. It was like the first game at MetLife, their annual preseason game, Jets, and Victor Cruz is wearing number 3.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember that, too, because it was weird at that one point. Odell, Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard were all on the Giants. They all wore 3 in college.
I know, yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like a weird coincidence?
And now Sterling. Oh, and she's wearing number 3.
I'm wearing 3 too.
How many touchdown grabs you're gonna have this season, Russell?
I can throw the ball probably better than I can catch it, because I always get like afraid my fingers are gonna get jammed. So when I catch it, I'm like, oh. Or I try to catch it like this. No, I don't try to catch it like that. I can do it pretty normal, but I don't like.
Didn't you and a friend try to reenact the Odell play?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so we were trying to reenact it. We were just throwing the ball and trying to be like football. But shout out Artemis. Yeah, we was she throwing it or was I throwing it? I don't remember.
I don't remember that.
I think I threw it, but it was a tiny football, so you could.
It was after the home opener against Buffalo last year.
Yeah, they lost that game.
It
was actually, sidebar, really warm that game. Like I wore jeans to the game, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm an idiot."
I always like that, how like football starts and it's like, yay summer, and it's like lovely 70-80 degree days out there, and then when you get to the end of it, it's like snowing.
Yeah, it was week 3 though, so I was like, oh, it's week 3, it would be like a little chilly out. No, but listen, I'll take the heat any day over the snow and the cold.
Me too. Me too. I am a total summer guy, to be
And that's why
honest.
I'm kind of happy it's been like a little cold out because, I don't mind sitting in the house when it's cold.
Fair enough. Yes. There you go. There you go.
Like
I
when
mean,
everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe it's like 50 degrees out today." I'm like, I don't care.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't wait for summer. I can't wait for summer in the sense I hope we get the baseball soon because there's just nothing better. Not even just at a Yankee game. Like if you even go to the minor league parks, like I've been to I used to cover the Staten Island Yankees. They
Uh-huh.
do a fantastic job over there. I mean, you could see the skyline beyond
Yeah,
center
I've
field.
seen pictures from there. Like that's a really cool park.
It's a great park, and the independent circuit is great too. The New Jersey Jackals, they do a fantastic job. I
Oh, I
interned
went to
there.
a Ducks game a while ago.
Hey, Long
Are
Island, go
they
Ducks!
independent circuit?
Yes, they are. They are.
We got these things. I was like way little, and you like like it's like a duck beak, and
Yes,
you like blow into it, and it's like and you just like blow into those the whole game. It's probably super annoying to all the adults there.
you should bring it to Liberty games next
I
season
don't
too.
I don't know where that is. I'm sure my parents like threw it out after the game. They were like, "That's enough."
When the other team's at the foul line, you should do it then.
They got oh yeah, unbiased reporter me. That duck noise. See, honestly, if they do any sports without fans at this point, like I'll gladly, take it.
Oh, I've come to the conclusion. Look, I'm one of those people. Like, look, I love seeing the fans in the stands. I think they do a great job. See the variety of jerseys there every week, and there is obviously a level of excitement that's added by the fans' reaction, and it's partially why you see upsets in the NCAA tournament because the longer a team sticks around the game, the more you win neutral crowds on your side.
Yeah.
Like when the 14, 15, 16 seed keeps it at under a 10-point game as we go through each media timeout. Like when you get to the under 8 timeout in the first half and suddenly like the other team, the underdog hits a 3 and
Yeah.
suddenly that's when the fans start to realize, oh my God, this might be real. And the announcer's like, "Whoop, sticking around. Let's see what happens." And then, the longer you stick with them, the more fans you lure to that side. So I think that fans, yes, they do have a spot in the game. But at this point, I think, let's get the games in first.
Yeah,
And
you don't want to like make anything worse or second wave, whatever. But I'm curious, like let's say there are no fans.
Mhm.
Are you like is the whatever like in stadium audio that's all set up then, right? And then
Right.
I saw some baseball league somewhere in Asia, I believe, they had the cheerleaders there but no fans.
Yeah, Taiwan did it. I
Yeah.
think that's what it was. What I'm drawn back to is that a few years back, 2015, I think it was, the White Sox and the Orioles played the game at an empty Camden Yards. There were riots going on in the city, and they said for everyone's safety, they would play without fans in that game. And my big question going to that one, I was like, I wonder if they'll do like at bat music or whatnot. Is that for the
Yeah.
fans' benefit? Players like really do that, but they did play the at bat music. They had they had the most media ever that season showed up for that game. They had fans lining up at the gate. I'm not sure if you've been to Camden Yards, but there's like a gate by the bleachers, and fans were lining up there. Fun fact: me and Camden Yards have the same birthday. We both
Yeah.
we both quote unquote opened for business on April 2nd, 1992. So I also have the same birthday as the Metrodome, but that was 10 years before I was born. So.
Stadium birthdays.
That's right. But I might have a few other ones as well, but I'm not getting into that. I want to bore you or your listeners right now.
I just noticed something the other day when I was watching The Office. Pam and Jim got engaged on my birthday.
No way.
I don't think the day, like I was obviously alive, but but like it was during the weight loss episodes, and they had the like dates out and said my date, and I was like, oh,
there you go.
No way. Good job, guys.
Stuff. I like that.
So that's my weird fact. But yeah, I think it should just be. It's going to be interesting.
Yes.
And I'm kind of like I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen because we don't know what's going to happen right now with anything. And I'm just curious as to like when we're going to find out stuff and if stuff does happen, how it's going to happen and where it's going to happen. And it's a lot of question marks.
I mean, I was on a NASCAR conference call before I got on with you with William, who won today's race, and one of the questions he was asked what concerned like what would have to change if there were no fans in the stands. And now NASCAR is something you could probably do without fans because there's nothing more social distancing than being in a car, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I freaked out. I was running an errand for my grandparents today. I saw a massive line at Starbucks' drive-through. I was like, wait a minute, that can be good. Oh, wait a minute, they're in a car. It's like the best thing you could do, the social distancing. But then it comes to matters of what would the pit crews have to do? So what kind of protections would we offer to them and whatnot?
Oh, yeah, because they're close together, right? Well,
yes. The entire point of a pit stop is that you have to be close together, pretty much.
Because that's when they take off the tires and stuff.
There you go. We'll make you
right?
NASCAR fan yet. But no, he did mention there would have to be a concept of perhaps like skeleton crews, like maybe not as many ears or pit crew members at the track as there normally would be. So there would have to be something like that. But he was very hopeful, I noticed, William Byron was, in terms of getting back to live action racing. And he said that, he thinks he'll be back in there sooner rather than later. And he said that, adjustments would have to be made, of course, but he does expect things to be relatively back to normal, at least in terms of the NASCAR level.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like NASCAR could be one of the first to come back. I think golf is coming back in June without fans, right? I forget what the thing is called. Is it the Masters? The Pros? What is? I don't know about golf. What is it called?
The Masters got shifted to November, but
the Pro Tour, is that what it's called?
Championship.
Whatever the tour is, the PGA Tour.
Yes,
right?
There you
That's
go.
what it is, right? So the tour
right.
got I think June is when they're gonna. It's in Texas, I think is the match. Is it a golf? What is it called? A golf match? I've never thought about this. A golf championship? A golf tournament? Tournament, right?
I don't know.
I don't really watch golf. Anyone couldn't tell, or I've never really played golf.
Mini golf, I do. But
yeah, I did win my last mini golf game. No flex.
Hey, very cool.
Not trying to brag about these championships, but so do you have anything you want to plug before we get off of here?
Oh, sure. You can find my work on Elite Sports New York.
I'll link it in the bio. Link in bio.
Empire Sports Media and W Insider. I can be found on Twitter at Geoff J Mags.
I'll put it on the screen. It'll be on the screen the whole time, everyone.
Oh, perfect.
But you can still plug it.
Okay, sure. GFF, much like the famous giraffe spokesman of the same name. Yeah, that's what I'll be working on. And like I said, follow me on Twitter. Find me on Instagram if you want, at Geoff Mags, and we could chat. I had a great time being on here, and
thanks for coming on.
Hey, keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you.
Hey, no problem.